Hello, everybody. Good day. Wonderful weather here in Bangalore. So warm welcome to everybody. Great to be part of Nirmaan once again. And I'm here co-sharing the screen with Aruna Padmanabhan from Capgemini. So welcome, Aruna. So nice to have you take time off and talk to us.
Thank you so much, Prem, and very excited to be part of Nirmaan.
Lovely, lovely. Thanks, everybody who's tuning in, listening to us. What we're going to do is having a dialogue, a very straight, open dialogue around what some of the relevance in today's world. Because we all have been talking about the new normal in the last 18 to 20 months. That's become truly normal now, not new anymore. But there are a lot of things that people have learned, people have adjusted, people feel comfortable in many ways. Organizations are also moving in the direction of executing some of the evolutionary strategic values that they've learned through these transformations in the last 18, 20 months. So today's is more around leadership. What do we need to do as individuals and leaders in organizations? Because we are hitting people in communities, at home, at work. And as we speak today, I don't know, this is data that is shown, right? Majority of the companies after about 18 months or so are planning to get back, or some of them are already opening offices for us to start the physical connect with people. And what I see from data is about most companies are hovering between 10 to 50% capacity. That's what they're trying, and they're figuring it out and trying to see if this works well, then what else can we add on and build into the engagement model of company and industry. So with that, I think what we are terming today is called the future of work, which is the distributed work model. In some terms, it's called remote working. So I also read about certain data points from companies. Ironically, we have today 3 types. The remote that I talked about is where people actually sit wherever you want, and you can contribute productive and make ensure that you align to the company's goals. The opposite, the extreme side on this side, on the left-hand side, is if I look at it, is fixed. There are some people who want to come to work, and there are some jobs that require you to be in office. And then in between, we are seeing this big gap of flexi working, where people want to come in a few days a week or a few weeks in a month, again, depending on how the company, the industry that you are in, the kind of job, etc., is working in. So this seems to be more or less where it is today. And in the near term, most companies are trying to figure out how to drive maximizing productivity based on these models. So what we'll talk today, Aruna, is we'd love to hear from you in terms of some of the things that you have seen, you have heard, and some of your peer group or customers focusing in terms of how do we maximize and make it very good and excellent for all of us, right? So with that as a backdrop, what I'd like to start here, Aruna, is let's hear from you in terms of your experience. I talked quite a bit about some data, some where companies are moving, but what's your take in terms of learning, the models? How is it seen in Capgemini or some of your peer group companies? Let's start with that, and then I would like to get into some specifics as part of the leadership traits, etc., that we need to drive. But let's start with here, Aruna.
Yeah, sure. Prem, as the pandemic begins to ease, all of us are planning to have a new combination of the hybrid virtual model, where we'll have some employees in the office, like you mentioned, some working from home. Actually, we should have a model which promises greater access to talent. And the hybrid model seems to be promising to do that, because in the past, we've had people who wanted to work from home, and people, some people are very excited to come to office. And today, with the pandemic and the COVID situation, all of us have, adjusted and made sure we have a very hybrid model. In Capgemini, we call it as the new normal model. And so we will implement, we've already started implementing it. So the need has become, the need of the hour. When I look at people have joined during the pandemic, okay? They've never experienced, office and the people, they've never met their colleagues. And we've had people who also been there in the past. They know how we function. Now they're working from home, and some of them are raring to come back. So it's a combination. I think if we work it well, people will start experiencing the culture of the companies, all the people who joined during the pandemic and meeting their colleagues, and people who've had the need to work from home with aged parents or new mothers. There's a possibility for them to have that flexibility, because I think today with the hybrid model, we should be able to get the best of our talent.
Absolutely. That's a great point, because I think it's one of the myths that we have overcome, that we cannot be outside of office to make an impact.
Absolutely.
And we have proven it totally differently, right? So that's a wonderful point. And I appreciate Capgemini's term of new normal model, so that's something that I think all of us are trying to figure out and then execute the best we can. So you touched upon a nice chord there, culture of the company. And I'm a very big believer of the culture, right? And values, of course, comes along with it. So like you said, all of us have hired a lot of people, and we are talking in the time of the great resignation phase, which is also great attraction phase, right? For others. So obviously, we have never seen anything like this in the past. And we never hope that we will see this during towards the end of the pandemic as well. So if I look at culture, which is a critical component of the company's backbone, right? And that's what you thrive on. And you market, you brand based on your culture, and people's engagement levels enhance based on the culture. I would love to hear, have a conversation around what are companies doing today to enhance culture when people haven't even come, and what do leaders in particular need to do 2 or 3 things that are very important from a culture standpoint to ensure that they're part of the organization, part of the team, and eventually they're comfortable delivering what they are here for. So what are your thoughts around that, Aruna?
So people experience culture through workplace, okay? Whether it is a virtual workplace or you come to the office, okay, meeting people, managers, colleagues is all a part of it. With the hybrid culture, we need to continue to learn new things and new skills as to how to manage our people, at the same time look at how we enhance and get the people to experience the culture, even if they're working from a virtual mode. So, if you ask me, the most important thing is intentionality and effort, right? It's very important for us to do as leaders. Nothing is automatic. We just have to create it. We can strengthen and sustain the culture by doing some of the things which I'm going to talk about. The leaders create, foster, and nurture culture with people working in multiple places today, right? Earlier, it used to be the office. Now you could be working from anywhere. How do you empathize, right? And how do you still keep the connectedness, as I call it? How do you share the purpose, right? It's a shared purpose. And how do leaders talk about the big picture, about our culture, what we do, how we do things? We also have to be very accountable, because, whether you work from the office or whether you're working from home, everybody is accountable for the results, right? But at the same time, we also need to be looking at the fairness, which I mean, as I call it, the proximity bias, right? So if people are at office, you give more work to them, but when they're working remote, do you forget them? No. Once the offices start, you need to have, the balance, a good balance of how you distribute the work, right? At the same time, there will be some conflict which will come in, but how do you manage the conflict? Don't push conflicts under the carpet as leaders, but you need to be working with both the set of teams to ensure that you're resolving the conflict. Visibility and acceptability, because leaders have to be visible and they have to be accepted by the team. As managers, we need both. And a very important aspect is transparency, which is openness is a very primary ingredient in trust. So the teams need to trust you. So it is very, very important to have it in very constructive cultures. So it's very critical for us to do this. And the last point I want to touch on is something called the social capital becomes very important, which means we need some solid networks. We need communities where people can interact, right? It doesn't have to be always about work. You have to bring in probably, family. You talk about your family, you talk about something you did, so you need to continue to share some of those things. That's a social capital. So it's an inclusion of all these things which build the culture. In the past, when people were at work, people experienced the culture because you were at work. Now we need to make additional efforts to ensure we are all doing it for our hybrid workforce.
Wonderful. Some great thoughts there and points you called out. I love the social capital piece. Very true. We just need to be part of communities and social, because that's a lot of learning coming in from there. And just to add to what you said, Aruna, is at VMware, what we are trying to do is, we looked at from a three dimensions. So one is the work force itself, which is the people, right? The talent that you talked about. Then there is a workplace, because earlier, like you said, we had only offices, and now we have every home or a destination you're based at, it is a workplace, and there's a very thin line. So the dimension and the meaning of a workplace has changed dramatically, right? And the last one that we talk about is actually work practices, and that's something which I wanted to add on is companies need to start looking at how to make it easy for them, how to make it convenient to adapt, convenient to access information, data, and also the tools and resources that are there. So people can be lost, especially newcomers. So organizations need to have better practices that will help, and that's where leadership plays a role in terms of taking those practices, awareness to people to make it comfortable, and all the other things that you talked about really make great sense. So just moving on from the culture piece, of course we are talking about leadership, which means all of us play leadership roles in different ways. You don't have to be a people leader to be a leader. That's my understanding, and that's what we are seeing a lot of companies moving in that direction. One of the key aspects for me is building great teams, and it takes actually a set of people, set of leaders and individuals to make that team. And my own experience and research and analysis that I've gone through in the past is, if you have to make a great, and today we don't want just Sachin Tendulkar alone, right? We need multiple Sachin Tendulkars in the team to make it successful, or somebody else. Just give an example of that. So how do you make that? So great teams are something that companies are going after today. And my knowledge, experience that I've seen are three things as part of that learning. Is you got to get people to do their best every day. That's a trait for them to be happy, etc. The second is, do we have a combined alignment to the goals of the team, that to the larger organizational goals and objectives? And the third thing you already touched upon very clearly is the trust. How do we build the trust? And more so in an environment like where we are today, which is diverse and remote. So these are three of the key traits that I believe is going to make a great team, and there are many others as well. I'd like to turn to you, Aruna, to figure out and let us know what has been your learning in terms of great teams. And if you were to pick the leader of these great teams, what have they done differently? What are the 2-3 traits, behavioral aspects that really stand out to make that the best team? Because multiple best teams make the best company, right?
Absolutely.
So what are your thoughts on that?
See, I think, while empathy has been a very important aspect, whether you're working remote or whether you're working in the office, the beauty of the pandemic has been that we have turned to human-centered leadership, which has become a very important aspect today.
Mm-hmm.
In the first week of the pandemic, we had 93% of our people working from home, right? And then we had, of course, we had Teams, so people could easily switch on to Teams and video and things like that. But having said that, I've seen leaders who have, it was a new way of working for them, right? So I've seen leaders who have set up meetings, and then we suddenly had some of the employees and their entire families, falling sick. Okay. And so we had to, and leaders stepped up really fast to ensure that they were given all the comfort which they were supposed to be given during this time. And the one thing we did in Capgemini was that we started something called as virtual connections. So all our leaders had to connect with the employees, and we almost touched about 75% of our employees to ensure that we spoke from, our CEO to everybody was talking to the employees, right? And we've also started something now globally. We've told all managers to have conversations, career conversations, 20-minute conversations with every single employee. And, we call it as You Matter, and it's globally in different places. It has different names, but managers are connecting with every single employee to talk about their, career aspirations, right? So it's very important for people to be in touch with the employees to ensure that, they're talking to them. The other thing I want to talk to you, which is very important, is there are 3 skills, I think, which is very important, which we talk to leaders all the time. We talk about empathy, we talk about collaboration, and we're talking about teamwork. Okay. And overarching all this is communications, because you cannot, and that's what keeps things going. And, with whatever is happening today, a little bit about empathy is, while everybody is managing with empathy, I think it's very important that we should remember empathy is not just a feel-good factor. You should actually act at every scenario with empathy. And I strongly believe that employees work harder and longer if the manager is empathetic. And that's a very important skill. And that leads to a lot of, we need to bring a lot of collaboration into place. So for a team collaboration, you need very effective leadership, communication, vulnerability, and creativity, right? It's also extremely important. And team members should have equal access to the manager, whether you're working from home or from the office. And clear expectations and response time and availability, everything becomes also very important. And once you have all these interpersonal skills, and, it actually leads you to becoming, more and more teamwork starts getting enhanced. And that's my thought on this.
No, wonderful, wonderful. Especially you brought about the vulnerability, which I think is role modeling yourself as a leader, right? Because the issues are there with everybody and they are trying to figure it out. I know some companies said Fridays, no meetings at all, right? You just do what you want and you contribute to the company, but no face-to-face or Zoom meetings. Some places I've seen a manager or leader has said between 12 and 3, let's not do any meetings. So it gives you time to take care of, like you said, your elderly ones, children, because they are all at home. So people are listening in, some great thoughts in terms of how you can grow yourself as a leader and also ensure that you take people along with you. It's not that each one of us do something and you want people to contribute larger. I think it has to be shared equally, the pain and the goodness. And that's where the trust comes in the team. So absolutely, having a back is nothing like it, in any team. And that makes a fantastic team, the trust and the ability to work together to a common objective or alignment to the company's goals. So again, these are some wonderful thoughts. And I think we have seen it being practiced from people. And again, Aruna, I always tell, and I'll share that even leaders are learning through this process. It is not that they know all the answers. And so it's for each one of us to help each other. Like you said, be part of a community. Some leaders may be ahead of the curve. Some teams are not. How do we get them all together? That makes a great culture that we talk about. And everybody's accessibility, one is visibility, of course. Just because I'm at home, that doesn't mean I can't be visible. And accessibility to the right set of people is very key. And you touched upon the key point about well-being. So I wanted to touch on that, which is being spoken a lot today, is not just physical but mental well-being as well, right? And as a leader, it is his or their responsibility, whoever it is, to ensure that the teams are understood where they are on a particular day or the week, what help is required both professionally and personally, right? So today I could be drained out because of some things happening at home, and I'm still sitting at home and still doing this, talking to people. It all has its own pressure. So well-being has become a big thing, and many companies have done change policies, benefits. We have done quite a few good things for our company, for our employees as well. What are your thoughts around one or two things that you feel we need to consistently continue doing for well-being of our employees?
I think there was a lot of pressure which came in when the pandemic happened. I think we stepped up employee assistance program, right? So people could actually talk to real psychologists and get some help, because many places it was not congenial for many people to work from home, right? I'm talking from the global perspective. There are countries where your home space is really small. It's not, everybody has big working places, and you have your children at home, you have your family at home, and in the midst of all this is also work going on continuously. So people took some time to adjust to this. So I think the employee assistance program, which the companies already had, I think saw a big uptick because people needed it at that point of time. The second thing which I believe was very important, and we told all our managers to do, was a one-on-one connect with the employees on a continuous basis to find out what are the needs. And it's very interesting, right? You on a normal day, you would see everybody in the office every day, and suddenly you're not seeing them. So now you need to make that additional effort till it becomes a practice to continue to talk to them and see. Many of the fun events which we ran in the office, we made them virtual. So we have a fun office now, so which is running very successfully, and a lot of people saying you can go for a walk and clock it in, and whoever does so many kilometers, can we go ahead and give some kind of a gift. But we are very big on sustainability, so anything we did, we said we'll plant a tree, right? So we did that, and a lot of work happened on that space, because one, it's their mental health, and secondly, it was also creating some fun in the organization. But at the same time, we also had a lot of webinars on wellness. Okay, we brought people together to make sure that they understood what wellness was, and now well-being is a big one, which all of us are talking about, because we need to continue to do that, especially with the hybrid workplace. For me personally, what worked was, which I had never done, was I took to running. And I continued to run through the pandemic, and which really helped me to keep myself mentally stable. I got onto yoga, and and I suddenly realized you don't need a real teacher, but you can have a virtual teacher to do yoga, right? So we also started yoga sessions for our employees, so people could go and do that. And so for me, I think some of those things will continue to stay, and we need to continue to have it, because with the virtual world, some people can come to work, some people cannot. So we need to keep everybody involved in whatever we do.
Great. And one thing common there, Aruna, I started running as well during the pandemic, and now it's more like a addiction.
Yeah.
Right.
It is.
I love to run now. So I think people have picked up multiple hobbies during this phase, and that's again a stride of leadership to themselves. And one thing, Aruna, I've heard from many others, especially women, who had to balance work and obviously work-life balance a few years back is quite different from what is today. People used to be in office and do office work and then balance work later on. But today it's all combined in together. While we are talking, you could be, serving somebody or taking care of some things at home. So in the middle of all this, the ability for us to be flexible, and I'm hoping that the inclusivity at home is enhanced, because everybody's feeling the same thing. And while we used to drive these messages harder in the office, I think they're realizing it and they're seeing it, and it's getting accelerated. And I believe so much that the DEI part of what we talk about is really enhanced because of this as well. This is one of the pro piece that I have seen, and it's really working well. And I've heard a lot of women as well come back and say, I prefer now working at home because things are really settling in and I'm able to avoid the traffic. And if people from Bangalore, we used to take hours, driving up and down. So that is cut down a lot. So, right. So with that, I think it has helped in some way, but then the culture, the connect, the networks that you talked about. I wanted to touch upon one other thing before I get into my one important piece on innovation, okay, which is critical in today's world. But I believe, Aruna, recognition is another piece that has helped in this phase. And again, data shows that the teams or people that were recognized have stayed longer in the company in some form or the other. I'm not saying it's just monetary, right? So it's all about leadership. How do you look at each aspect? And not every team needs recognition, but there are people in the team that needs recognition for the kind of work that you contribute. And one thing I can share with this larger team is during wave 2, we have a set of people that came together within the company on their own. I mean, absolutely, very personal. And this is the passion that people come. They formed a team just overnight when that wave 2 was going on, and they were able to, provide a lot of support and help to the larger organization. And very informally, they came together, and that's situational leadership again. So different aspects of leadership is what I'm seeing in this last 18, 20 months. And recognizing the right level of behavior also kind of penetrates down the organization to reinforce saying that these are the ways in which you need to come back and start exhibiting yourself. So coming back on my key point about innovation, many leaders, many people even here, I would imagine, we believe that whiteboarding is the best way to innovate. All right. But again, my own company example, we have produced a lot of modules and new products and solutions coming out in the last 20 months without even coming face to face. So it has proven again that innovation can be done. But I'd like to get your opinion, what your organization, your peer group, how can we enhance innovation if we continue in a hybrid remote working model? What are a few things that we need to keep in mind?
So I think one of the things which is very important, whether it is, I was just reading one of the research. When you have a piece of work which you want to innovate on, in this hybrid situation, we need to be very fair about how you distribute that work to the people. Because it's not that somebody who is at work gets the better piece and somebody who is working from home doesn't. I already spoke to you about proximity bias. So I think it's very important for leaders, even when you do a whiteboarding, to ensure that, you divide the work in a very fair manner, more and more. And I think innovation is coming. You don't have, you've realized with the pandemic, I know from Capgemini situation, and I know how our stock is doing. So we have continued to work. We have continued to perform, and we've continued to deliver to our clients extremely well. So having said that, this has also happened because of our leaders learning and adapting themselves very well to get the best out of the people. I think that is the thing, equal work for both, ensure you're having regular meetings. And one very important thing, just because people are coming back to work, once you have a meeting, don't forget to switch on that video, because just because you see a few people sitting with you, make sure you have that video on, because there are other people who are working in the hybrid mode. So I think all these aspects come together, and nothing like being a collaborative, great team to bring in innovation.
So wonderful. Absolutely. I love the point. Yeah. Because you go back to your older habits, right? Very soon. And that's inclusivity. That's all part of the DI culture that we need to drive, right? And this is part of Nirmaan is part of one of those larger DI initiatives that we want to not just do it at few companies, but across the industry, because it's about the community that we work, we live, and we serve. So that's a very critical piece of what we want to do collectively in the industry. So what I would like to close with is to ask you, Aruna, is there any last comment from you in terms of things that we missed out in the larger sphere of what we are looking at from leadership, looking at from a gender standpoint, or looking at it from what we need to really focus on, few things that will play a larger role as we move forward in the next year or two? Anything that comes to your mind, would you like to share to the audience?
Absolutely. See, the pandemic will go, but I don't think the hybrid, working is going to cease. I think we've all realized that working hybrid is a great way of innovating. So it's a great way of, servicing our clients, and we've not let down anything during the pandemic. My couple of do's is, I think as leaders, we have to continue to set clear priorities, right? And, we need to continue to be inclusive. Continuously reflect on your biases. Sometimes your biases do come to play, especially when we are bringing people back to work. I think you have to, think about what biases you have, what predispositions you have, and you have to overcome that. Okay. Always ask yourself, how can I be fair to my people to bring the best out of them, right? There are some don'ts, right? So don't be rigid, just be flexible. And don't ignore signs of stress, which is very important. Help people to prioritize. And don't forget about fun, right? And my last piece is enjoy your team. They are the best.
Lovely. You need to start believing in that, right? That's the best team. And I can summarize everything that you said is listen more in these circumstances, and you will automatically pick up those critical sense that you get from the environment, team, people, and don't ignore it. Try and tackle it as early as possible. So don't linger on things. So your ability to sense, address it, execute it should be faster, and take help. Another thing, Aruna, I felt is a lot of leaders believe it's all on my shoulders. Take the organization. You have umpteen number of people around you, even others in the industry. Talk to people, understand what can be done the best way, because I always believe the rework is always a painful process. So if you can do it the best the first time, just try and do that the best. So I think those are some very important. So I hope the audiences are listening to some of these simple tips that we are talking about. They may look trivial, but they can go a long way in building the right value culture and being a productive team and organization. And most importantly, healthy and well-being members in the organization. So with that, I want to thank you, Aruna. I think this is a topic that we can go on and on. It's just there, so many things. And I'm sure there are questions that the audience may have. We are happy to look at some of them and get back to you at a later point in time. But most importantly, thank you so much for your insights, Aruna. I think there's an opportunity for all of us to come together and learn from each other and make a better place outside. So with that, I want to thank the core team that has put these programs, Nirmaan, and some of the specific ones like this forward for the benefit of everybody. So thank you, team, so much. I look forward to more connections with Nirmaan and everybody else in the future. Thank you, and wishing everybody the best.
Thank you.